I mean, particularly, correct me if I'm wrong, but she started talking about how Trump allegedly sexually assaulted her in a public change room at a department store. When she was a new book, she'd written a book had come out, and lo and behold, at the time she was trying to sell the book, she said, oh, by the way, Donald Trump.
That's right. I mean,
go on.
I mean, in my view, it's clearly about making money and self-aggrandizement. I mean, she waited until 2019 to reveal this so-called crime in a book, and of course, it helped sell the book. You couldn't possibly say that wasn't a factor in her thinking. That just doesn't make any sense. But even then, she wasn't going to sue Trump. So she was just happy with the publicity. It's when she met George Conway at a party in Manhattan, and he's like an anti-Trump lawyer, and he convinced her, because he knows New York law, he said, look, you can actually sue him for defamation for denying it, and then the court will have to kind of adjudicate the facts. And that's what happens. And so she did, and there were two trials. There was one in early 23, and she won that one, and Trump had to pay $5 million. And then she sued him again because he denied it a second time on TV.
Oh my
gosh. And there was that second denial, and I think he called her a whack job or something. But I mean, big deal. Who cares? We'll get called worse things. We get called worse things than that all the time. At least I do.
I certainly do.
And I'm not suing anyone. But anyway, and for that second one, he was fined $83 million. So it's now $88 million, actually, that he has to pay. I mean, he's going to appeal it, but it's not, I mean, I don't think he's going to succeed because the appeal goes through the New York system, and I just can't see how they're going to, because they all hate him so vehemently. The Trump derangement syndrome is extreme there in that system. Look, it's going to, it's probably going to hurt him financially, but I think politically it really helps him a lot. I mean, for an ordinary American out there in Ohio, Michigan, or whatever, looking at this absurdity that this old rich lady, and she's already rich, that she gets $88 million cash because of suffering from 30 years ago. She doesn't even know what year it was. I mean, it's so grotesque, it's so disgusting that it's, you just hate the system and want to support him more, right? And yet, funny thing this week is watching on CNN and all the networks about how this was going to hurt Trump because he lost. I'm like, you guys are deluded. I mean, that is a grotesque thing that happened. And, to transfer someone all that money, and the size of the sum is just despicable.
Yeah.
The average wage in the US is $60,000 a year, and you have to work for a year for that. Whereas this lady gets $88 million because she said something happened 30 years ago that probably didn't even happen. So, I mean, it's just... It's wild. It's
completely wild. And honestly, your average Joe, as you say, must look at that and just go, like, I have no faith in the system whatsoever that this is allowed to happen. Like, with those lefty commentators, you're right. They live in an alternative universe if they think that this is going to. It's like, we wish. Oh my God, it's ridiculous. Oh God. Now, speaking of ridiculous, let's talk about the very, very much open U.S. southern border. I mean, there is a grand standoff happening in Texas at the moment with Governor Greg Abbott versus Joe Biden. It's come at a pivotal time in the election cycle. How do you think the Democrats are going to react sort of long term to this kind of biffo between the two of them and the disregard that Texas has for Biden?
Yeah, it's very fascinating. I think the Biden administration is going to be reluctant to have a constitutional crisis over this with Texas because the bulk of Americans are on Texas's side. I think 70%, I read recently in a survey. So they basically think it's quite okay for Texas to defend its border. And I think Texas's argument is kind of reasonable. I mean, there have been millions of people crossing over the border who shouldn't have, which is a huge number. I mean, it's extraordinary numbers. I mean, we can't even imagine these numbers in Australia, right? This is, it's something like 10% of Australia's population has just crossed the Texas border in a year or two. And, of course you're going to notice that if you're living there and you're going to be angry about it. A lot of people are going to be very angry about it. And from Texas's point of view, the federal government was not doing enough to stop it. And so they're using their bureaucrats instead. Texas is using its National Guard and its various law enforcement staff to do it. And so, frankly, if I was the federal government, I'd be like, great, help out. Thanks. You can help us stop, you help us solve the problem. But as you pointed out, no, they've taken some of it to court, and the Supreme Court said that federal agents can actually remove the wire that Texas puts up. But the court hasn't said that Texas can't put the wire up, so they're still putting the wire up. And as far as I know, federal agents have stopped taking it down. And, frankly, why would you? Why would you have a crisis over that? I mean, just leave the wire up, right?
Yeah.
It's also making your job easier too. So, I mean, I expect it's not going to get much worse, this crisis. It's an election year, and I think immigration in most polls now is the number one issue ahead of inflation. So, and, Biden's on the wrong side of this issue. So I don't think he's going to want a confrontation with Texas.
Well, look, that would be the sensible decision for the Biden administration to make. But this is, Joe Biden we're talking about, and he's not, he's not known for making too many sensible decisions. That is absolutely true.
No, it's true. It's true. Well, I mean, is he even making the decisions? I don't know. So I don't know if he's making these decisions. So.
No, it's his puppeteers who are going, oh, well, he moves his leg this way and he moves his,
That's right.
God, poor old Joe.